So on page 290, we are going to learn a bit about two-step equations today. So if you recall, we're always undoing what is being done to x. So before we were only having to undo one thing, and now we're going to have to undo two things, but we have to do them in like reverse order of operations. So we're kind of working our way from the outside in. So like the furthest thing from our blah, 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 variable, like x in this case, is what we have to do first. So we're gonna real quick watch that. So remember, you have access to all of these beautiful things as well. You can log into Clever, get into Alex, but right now you can just watch because I'm showing it for you. So instead of getting into Alex, you'll click on the Red McGraw-Hill app and then click on the reveal side of your Alex. Because it's not in your calendar, hasn't been put there, you can just navigate to whatever section you are on. So if you look at the bottom right-hand side of your packet or your workbook, you'll see it says lesson 6.2. So once you are in the purple reveal side of the app here, you'll go to browse your course, drop down the caret for module 6. Careful not to click on the caret for module 6, and then click on lesson 2 where it says solve two-step equations. So there is let's just launch the presentation because we'll just hop through it real quick. All right. Maybe we will. So they are giving you a real life scenario of when we would use this, talking about standards, vocabulary, and here we go. I'm hopeful that nope, we're gonna keep jumping. So this is resource 5 of 17 with algebra tiles and 6 of 17. This should be it, I hope. Maybe. Yes. All right. So right in your packet, you can see this two-step equation, right? 5x plus 3 equals 13. It has two different operations paired with the variable. In this case, the operations are multiplication, right? When we have a number next to a letter, it means we multiply them together, and addition. So to solve a two-step equation, undo the operations in reverse order of the order of operations. So here's the animation to see how we would solve
that. A two-step equation contains two operations. To solve a two-step equation, first undo the addition or subtraction. In this example, undo the addition by subtracting 3 from each side of the equation. Next, undo the multiplication or division. In this example, undo the multiplication by dividing each side of the equation by 5. The solution of the equation is x equals 2. Finally, check the solution. Start with the original equation. Replace the variable with the solution. Then simplify to check whether the sentence is true. If so, the solution is correct.
All right. Do you see where they put that in your graph, in your workbook or your packet, whichever the case may be? So I'll stop sharing screens. They walked us through that. Now here is your first example to try and walk through. So if we're solving 2x plus 3 equals 9, what's being done to the x? It's being multiplied by 2, and they're adding 3 to it. So we have to undo it in reverse order. So remember, they wrote down the two steps, right? They said step 1 was to add or subtract. Step 2 was to multiply or divide. So that's what we're going to do. We get hailed on. Holy cow, can you see that? But then we have to pause and observe. My little scientists. Whoa, you see the hail? Stick a bucket out and catch it real fast. Yeah, do it. Here we go. There's some little snow. It kind of reminds me of Dippin' Dots. Anybody want some Dippin' Dots? That is legit crazy. Okay. We had like a beautiful weekend and then, but bam, Mother Nature's like, not today. Look at, it's like a super pretty, it looks like raining down ice. It looks like layered snowflakes. I don't know if you can see this or not. But you can see like the diamond shapes kind of. It's obviously melting on my skin, but all right, sorry about the interruption. I got a little sidetracked. So our first step is to add or subtract, and our second step is to multiply or divide. So to get rid, to make this +3 a 0, our additive inverse is the opposite of that. So we subtract 3 from both sides. Then we just have a 2x equals, what's 9 minus 3? 6. So we have to undo multiplying by 2. Remember, big kids are going to show dividing with a fraction bar, please. So you're going to divide both sides by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. The reason we divide by 2, remember, is because 2 divided by 2 is 1. 1x we just write as x. So in other words, the solution of the equation is x equals 3. Then they're putting 3 back in for x here to be sure 9 does equal 9. Okay. So now try the check here. Remember your 2 steps. Are we adding or subtracting 5 from both sides? How do we make a +5, 0? We're going to subtract it from both sides. So do that. Show your work. Line it up neatly. Practice that for a minute. And then we'll go over it. Getting pretty excited over there. Be sure you're dividing by the entirety of the coefficient. So if it's negative, we want to divide by negative to be sure that we have a +1x. So hopefully by now you have said -5 is equal to -5 and kind of combined your columns. So I have -3x here. This became 0. Yikes. I'm bringing down my equal sign. And 14 minus 5 is 9. So here, my second step is to multiply or divide. Remember, I want 1x. So -3 divided by -3 is 1. Whatever I do to the left side, I have to do to the right side of my equation. So -3 divided by -3 we said was 1. 1x we write as x. X is equal to what? What's 9 divided by -3? 3. Oh. You got to pay attention to your signs. -3, right? When my signs are different, with multiplication and division, my answer is negative. All right, here's another one, but we got to do this a little bit differently. Remember, add or subtract. What are we going to do? Add or subtract 7 from both sides? Well, they're telling us, right? So if we add 7 to both sides, -2y is equal to what? What's 3 plus 7? 10. And then multiply or divide. Are we multiplying both sides by -2 or dividing both sides by -2? I'm now on 291. So if we divide both sides by -2, we end up with +1y, which we write as y, and 10 divided by -2 is -5. And just in case you weren't sure, remember they always tell you. Then they put -5 back in for y to be sure it checked out. All right, try this two-step equation here. How do I get rid of the -8? Yep, take the opposite to both sides, because that way it will make it 0, right? So I have 5w equals excellent, 5. Now, how do I get what 1w equals? If I subtract 5w, I'll have 0 equals 5 minus 5w. Okay, but if I divide 5, remember my first step is to add or subtract. My second step is to multiply or divide. I added, so now I'm on my second step. I have to multiply or divide, so I'm dividing both sides by 5. 1w, or in other words, w is equal to 1. And then we could go back in and replace the w with 1. So 5 times 1 minus 8. Let's see if that does equal -3. 5 minus 8 is -3, so that does check out. All right, before we get into all of this crazy town, I believe it should be able to assign you a beautiful two-step equation that I know you love Boomdex. No, I don't. I hate it. But I feel like in our book, we don't always get a ton of practice. There's two-step inequalities. Too much practice. There's no such thing as too much practice. Yes, there is. I never get them done. Is there such thing as solving two-step equations? Yes. All right. So in your Google Classroom, or you can just go to, here we are, boomlearning.com. They're knocking out all of those boom cards. I'll put a link in it to Boom Learning, but you can just type in boomlearning.com. Otherwise, you'll find the link in your Google Classroom. I wouldn't wait for me because I'm kind of slow. So go to boomlearning.com and you're looking for the Boom deck called Solving Two-Step Equations. Very original, right? It should be assigned to you, so you should see it there. Let me, oh, whoa. So two-step equation. Where did it go? Here it is. So as you're looking at it, you might want to write them down, right? So you might want to write down this down and write +3. You can do it in your margins of your text if you want to. You can grab a spare sheet of paper, but be sure you remember that you're doing the opposite. So adding or subtracting, so +3 +3. I should show that, shouldn't I? plus 3 plus 3. And that brings you to 2x is equal to 8, which then you have to divide both sides by 2. And that gives you x equals, so what would you put in this box? 4. So let me do just that. And then again, add or subtract first. So I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides. That gives me 4y equals 24. Divide both sides by what? 4. That's the pattern you're following here. So then you're left with y equals 24 divided by 4 is 6. All right, now this is one that we didn't really see, right? So you should know how to add or subtract first. When you subtract 4 from both sides, you're left with x over 2 is equal to 7. You have, this is a one-step equation, right? How do I undo division? Multiplication. So what am I going to multiply both sides by? I got to get rid of this. So I'm going to multiply them both by that. So 1x is equal to 7 times 2, which is what? 14. So that one does look a tad bit different for sure. This one is like what we just were looking at. Don't freak out if they switch sides. You're still adding or subtracting to get rid of the constant. So what would I do first here, Lucas? Welcome to math class. How do I get rid of plus 4? Subtract it from both sides. So now I have 18 is equal to 2x, but I want 1x, so I have to divide both sides by what? How do I make this coefficient 1? Divide it by itself. So 9 is equal to x, which also means that x is equal to 9. All right. Don't forget to divide by the whole thing, not just by 3, but a -3. This looks okay. This looks okay. Be careful of your integer rules. Right? When I subtract 9, it's getting more negative here. Just because it's in a different order, don't get freaked out. I'm still wanting to get rid of my constant first. So do I have to add or subtract to get rid of that 3? I would have to subtract, right? Because 3 minus 3, that would become 0. Whatever I do to the left side, I have to do to the right. So now I have -2x equals 12, right? Because this sign is attached to this coefficient. So I've got to divide both sides by -2. -2, which means x is going to equal -6. Careful with your integer rules. All right. Again, it's on the opposite side, but you can still do it. Hopefully you see that, okay?